Nis tachtan erig tan lá dul chun sína stréis na féle bride á dóig me machiol. The first day of spring, and today is Lála Breed, St. Bridget's Day, and for the first day of spring we've come to Griffin's Garden Centre in Dripsey to celebrate the beginning of the season. Margaret, it must be a lovely place to be on the first day of spring.
Like heaven. It's beautiful. And what a day to come.
Isn't it lovely?
Fabulous.
Yeah, there's great sunshine.
Yeah.
And
everybody feels fantastic today.
They do indeed. And I noticed not only have we got the first day of spring, but we're surrounded by spring as well.
Yeah, we've got all these lovely primroses, which is the first flower of spring, really.
Yes.
And they're symbolic with spring.
And they're coming in all kinds of colours now, aren't they?
Yeah, well, the original one was the primrose colour, the yellow one, but now we've got them in all types of colours, yeah.
Yes, and there's great cheer in them, isn't there?
Yeah, again, the first flower after all the bad weather.
Now you have to educate a poor Christian soul here who doesn't know a perennial from a tomato.
Okay, we'll educate you.
You tell me about these now.
Now, well, what I always say to people is, think where they're growing naturally. So
Yes.
these grow naturally by the ditch.
Yes.
And they're always angled like that. So the rain runs out of them.
Okay.
Whereas if people are inclined to plant them upright, and all these buds will just get rotted.
Oh, you're right.
So the trick with these is to angle them in the pot, and they'll last much, much longer.
Oh, so if you're planting them into a pot, you
Tilt them. Yeah.
And if you're planting them into the ground, you tilt them.
Yeah.
So
just a little bit.
And at the same time, they like moisture and cold, don't they?
They like moisture, but they like it well drained. That's why they grow in a ditch. They're getting a supply, but they're not waterlogged or anything.
Yes, yeah. Fantastic. So these are the primroses. And Margaret, there's a great array of pansies. Are these spring pansies now as well? I know that there were winter pansies.
Yeah, we've got, pansies, I'll educate you now again.
Yes, well, this is what I came for, Margaret.
Pansies, it depends when you sow them.
Yes.
So John, my husband in the nursery, he times them all. And the ones that we're selling now will flower right through until about June.
Yes.
And then in August we have the winter ones, and they flower right through until this time of the year.
So they're effectively the same plant, it's just that they've been started at a
Different
time
times,
of year.
yeah.
That's interesting, isn't it?
But now it's a specialised seed. It's a very good hybrid,
Yes.
but it is the same seed for the different times of the year.
Very good.
So it's
Now,
all to do with the timing that they're sown.
that they're sown
And it
on.
has to be the day. There's particular days to sow them, and if you don't get them sown on that day, then your programme is out.
I see. So it's all very sensitive. The easiest thing is for me to come and pick them up here.
That's what we prefer as well. If you come up and pick them up.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, Margaret, could we just maybe have a walk through here and have a look at... I know that you're very good at making suggestions for, say, urban gardens and for, decorating front doors in the countryside. And I know you have a lovely display here, so maybe we'll walk through to that.
No problem.
All right?
No problem.
Okay. So this is very nice. Everything is very colourful and cheerful looking. By the way, we're just passing here. What are these?
Right, these are carnations or dianthus,
Yes?
and these smell beautifully.
Lovely scent,
Yeah, and these are so hardy. These will flower now right until September.
Yes. And what colours? You have different colours in
Yeah,
that as well?
we've
haven't
got
you?
them in pinks, cerise pink, fuchsia pink, whites, a whole range of colour again.
Okay.
And the main thing with dianthus, they love to be bone dry, gravelly, stony soil. So if anybody's got the poorest of soil, dianthus or carnations love this.
How do they do across the winter then? Are they just for the season only?
No, the foliage will stay on all winter and come back again then the following year.
So for anybody who might not be over enthusiastic about having to plant up their beds every year, this is quite a good choice.
It is, but the main thing you've got to remember is that they can't be too wet in the winter time.
Okay.
Really gravelly, stony soil
Yes. Okay.
is ideal for them.
Okay, now let's move on. There's a lovely pot, look, that you've just...
Yeah, that's a little bit of grass just to give it a nice flow out. And then the pansies, these are actually winter pansies that we had here all winter.
Yes.
So they're still flowering now.
and they're doing very well still, aren't they?
Yeah, and that's even with all the cold weather we've had.
Yes.
And they'll keep flowering now until about May.
Okay. Now, can we just move on up to the front door that you have here, Margaret? Because I know that you've done a lovely display here for people. It's extraordinary that I suppose traditionally we would have considered our gardens to be something down on the ground.
Well, it is, but I have a thing about front doors. I find, if you go to a house, it's nice to have a nice welcome with a nice flower and nice perfume.
Yes.
And you feel, if the front door looks nice, it's a nice, cheery welcome.
Yes.
It's sort of an Irish welcome. Keep me Fáilte, let's say.
Indeed, yeah. So what have you, if I come around to this side of you now, Margaret,
Okay.
we'll do a sort of a waltz limerick around the microphone here.
Jump over.
Maybe you could come to this side here and look out this way at our camera, and maybe at the same time tell us what it is that you've done on this front door.
Okay, so on the right hand side here we have a little topiary, and that's a Japanese box, totally hardy. You could have that up in Mushera and it will survive. And then grass and some primroses, and again, can you see the way the primroses are tilted?
Yes.
They're angled a little bit, and you see them better because if they're upright you have to look into the pot.
Yes.
Whereas this is looking out at you.
Yes, and that topiary, going back to that, is that fairly haphazard insofar as the pruning is concerned? I mean, that looks as though it has been very manicured.
No, the beauty of this is that it's very slow growing, so it doesn't grow very fast, so it's very easy just to snip bits off of it, and you can keep it really well manicured without much trouble, so it would be easy maintenance.
Yeah, it's a very attractive front door.
Lovely.
The pots are lovely, aren't they?
Yeah, just a bit of cheerfulness, because again, I think after the winter and all that's going on in the country, it's just nice to have a little bit of uplifting cheer.
I think after this programme, every front door in the country will be painted yellow.
We hope. Then we left this space blank because we said, rather than copying it direct, it would be nice to get a little bit of driftwood or something around your area and move that in there.
Right, so a little piece of natural sculpture.
Yeah, and then maybe a lantern.
Yes.
With a candle in it for night time. So when somebody comes to the door, you've got that nice flicker of light.
Lovely, yeah, lovely idea. These primroses now, they will. You're telling me they'll flower until when?
Primroses will flower until April, mid-April, maybe the end of April.
Okay, so at that stage then, if I had that arrangement now at home, would I lift out the primroses and put something else in?
Yeah, around, in May. They
Yes.
should keep going now until May, and then you can put in your summer bedding. So then your summer bedding will take you right through until September, October,
Yes.
and then put something nice, cheerful for Christmas, which
Yes.
brings you back to
like
this time of
cyclamen
year.
or something
The red
like that.
cyclamen, yeah.
Red
Or again, the
cyclamen.
winter pansies.
So once you've got your basics kind of structure in place, you can, and especially if you've got these for instance, topiary, or
Yeah.
whatever, then you can always add and take just a little amount to give the place a great lift.
All you're doing is taking away the colour and replacing it with more seasonal colour.
Yeah, that's excellent. What about this little pot? What's this variegated leaf fellow?
This is a little euonymus, trailing
Okay.
euonymus, but that could be a trailing ivy as well, just to give it a nice little bit of flow. And
Yes.
again, a little bit of the acorus grass, just a little bit of movement again in the wind.
Now talk to me about watering pots, because it's the bane of my life.
Everybody gets confused with the watering. There's a simple guideline. When it's dry,
Yes.
water it. Leave it go until it's dry again, and then water it.
Okay, so typically
It depends.
once a
you
week,
see,
once a fortnight?
there's a pot there to the right hand side and to the left. This one could dry up twice the speed of this one.
Okay.
If the wind is coming in this way, the prevailing wind, this is going to be the one that will dry up hugely.
Okay.
So this one might be still quite damp, and you'd have to water this. This could be bone dry. And
Okay.
people don't understand that two plants very close in proximity
Yes.
might dry up at different rates.
Okay. So typically I just have to put my hand in the soil
Actually,
and find
yeah.
out.
Just
And that's
touch
good
it.
enough, is it?
That's the best way.
By the way, how important is it to, for instance, presumably they're growing in peat or in some preparatory compost. Tell me what they are growing in?
Yeah, this is growing in John Inn's multi-purpose compost.
Now, some of these composts have grit through them, do they?
They have, and this is from an Irish company. It's in County Tyrone, and
Yes.
they've done huge research into compost. What they have in this compost is clay particles
Yes.
mixed through with grit and a little bit of slow release feeding.
Yes. But I mean, is the traditional thing of putting a few stones at the bottom of the pot still valid?
Yep, you know your hole that's in the pot?
Yes.
Then you've got to put a flat stone there that nothing except water goes underneath that stone.
Yes.
Because if you put small little stones, they'll clog up. Your compost will clog up your drainage hole and waterlog the pot.
Yeah. Now, I know that this is your front door, and
Well, we have a selection of 3 front doors.
oh, you have a selection of 3
3,
front
yeah.
doors. Let's go and see the
We
others.
didn't know what colour you liked, Brendan, so we decided to choose different
well,
colours.
let's make our minds up about that in a few minutes. So we're at the second front door.
Yes, our green door.
Yes, and it's very cheerful again, and you're using the primroses here again for this.
Yep, we're using the primroses again, a mixture this time of the primrose colour, the yellow colour and the whites.
And the
Again,
whites.
nice and cheerful and bright.
And bright. Now, I notice you have 2 lovely terracotta pots here. Are these frost resistant?
That's a very good question. Terracotta, because it's a clay, is not frostproof, no matter whatever anybody says to you. But you can make it frostproof by putting a varnish on it, and I'd suggest a matte varnish,
Yes.
because it will still look same terracotta. It doesn't shine it up or anything.
So, oh, I see. So you're recommending that if you want terracotta really, you need to do that.
Well, if you want it to be frostproof, you'd need to do that. And the main thing as well is to do it underneath,
Yes.
because the moisture, the problem is if the pots get wet and they take in a lot of moisture and then there's frost at night, it cracks.
And I suppose they need to be lifted off the ground a little, do they, with frost?
We do, and we have pot feet, and that makes, it has a few solutions to problems. If you put pot feet underneath, you can wipe underneath it or
Yes.
brush underneath it, which makes it very clean because insects won't gather there,
Yes.
and it dresses it up nicely as well.
Very good. Now, you also have alternative arrangements from pots. I mean, a person doesn't have to lay out a huge sum of money on pots. if they
Exactly,
don't
and
need to or don't
sometimes
want
I
to.
find maybe an elderly person can't lift these pots or move them around. Now we
Yes.
have lightweight pots as well, but I always find if you look in your garage or your attic, you'll always have a basket that you got from somebody.
Yes.
So you could plant up your basket and put it at the front door, which would be lovely, especially now to Easter time.
Very good, yeah.
A basket at the front door is lovely.
Yes. So yeah, or maybe any other container that is sort of unlikely container even at home.
Yeah, and,
I have
you
a
know-
little wheelbarrow or something.
Yeah, and it's all recycled, if you want to recycle something.
Yes.
And if you've got different colours and you want to keep it to a theme, you could camouflage the colours that you don't want with trailing ivies and trailing plants,
Yes.
or the plastic containers that you mightn't want visible. Just put trailing plants over those and nobody knows what it's in.
Fantastic. Now, when I was talking to you earlier, you suggested to me that perhaps front doors could be gender-based.
Well, you want me to show you the nice feminine front door, do you?
I certainly do, yeah.
Okay.
Looking forward to that one, Margaret.
Right.
Okay. So this is what you've been promising me.
Yes, this is our feminine, truly girly door. Isn't it
It certainly looks it, yeah. Now, how have you achieved this? Just give me some idea of how you've managed to do it.
Well, again, just basic colour of the door with a deeper shade of that colour around it. And again, nice planting up.
Yes, and curiously enough, you seem to be using slightly darker colours, which is a bit unusual for a feminine team, shall we say.
But again, it's the contrast with because we didn't want to make it too Barbie.
Yes.
So the darker pots tone it down a little bit. So it's feminine, but yet not too much.
Now, I'm intrigued, Margaret, if we could just come out here a little bit. I'm intrigued by this mirroring on the wall. Is that practical?
Yeah, and it's an Irish company. It's a Cork company that is making this.
Yes.
And it's lovely because, sometimes when you've got a lot of concrete walls,
Yes.
it's nice to look out at a reflection.
Yes.
And it covers the concrete wall nicely. But even there now, it looks very pretty, doesn't it?
It's lovely, yeah. I have to say the effect is excellent. And I like this, what am I going to call that? A string of Tory tops and pieces of wood, and it's a chime.
It's
Is it
a type of chime, yeah.
Yeah.
So it's quite nice.
It's-
Just
yeah,
adds another dimension
it
to
does,
it.
doesn't it? And
And then we've got our clock and our thermometer.
Oh, that's
so
Grand
you'll both
Central
need
Station, New York.
Yes, you'll know the time and you'll know the temperature at the moment.
Yeah, so an awful lot of interest in a very small space.
Yeah, and again, anybody can do this. And it's like picking little snippets that you might have in the house and bring them out for a while, just to change the front door, just to make it interesting.
Yes. Now, you're leaning up against something very, very attractive here, something that really looks well.
Right, so this time we've changed our pot to be a mixture of things, and we've used a trailing ivy, which is lovely because this is all the year round, so it looks well anytime. And then we've got our primroses, and we've got our carnations, our dianthus.
Okay.
And again, this is a little weeping cotoneaster, which has red berries. Even though I think our robins have taken all the red berries off of it.
They're
at this
entitled
stage.
to it now, surely.
But during the cold spell, the robins out here, just to see them on all the berry plants, it was fascinating.
Yes,
because it was a food supply for them.
Yes, great to hear the birds these mornings, isn't
fabulous.
it?
Yeah.
It's lovely, yeah. It must be lovely to wake up here at the garden centre.
Well, it's not like a job because it's always cheerful.
Yes.
Which makes it nice.
Yes, absolutely. Now, from this position, I want to ask you about one or two things. If we were to talk about a shrubbery and setting up a shrubbery, tell me what is happening to these pink fellows, what are the ones that come out at this time of year that get burned by the sun?
Camellias.
The camellias, Camellia japonica.
Camellia, yeah.
What is happening to those? Why are we seeing this great array of blooms in somebody's garden and the next day they're all gone brown?
Okay, so, right, it's a combination. Some varieties are very early flowering and the sun gets them in the morning after the frost, so that makes them go brown. So really with a camellia or anything that flowers very early in the spring, you've got to put it in a position that it doesn't catch the early morning sun.
And so that is absolutely vital.
Yeah, not facing east.
I mean, that should come with a government health warning.
Well,
do not plant it where the early morning sun is going to catch it.
But then sometimes people think the early morning sun is 10 o'clock. Like the early morning sun is 6 o'clock in the morning. So what you've got to do before you plant your camellia, walk around your garden at 5:30 or 6 with the birds singing and, choose a spot that the morning sun doesn't hit.
Yes, it's such a lovely shrub and it's a pity to see it just vanishing overnight.
Yeah, but you'll find if you move it to a position facing west, totally different plant.
And you get weeks of pleasure out of it.
Almost get months.
Yes.
And we had one in our home place and it flowers for about 3 months.
Really?
Terrific.
Yeah. And this is true of magnolia as well, or not?
Yeah, because it's a spring flowering thing. Azaleas, rhododendrons, magnolias, anything that flowers early in the spring.
Yeah. And of course what's effectively taking place there is that the frost is on the petals. It doesn't damage the petals in itself.
No, it's
but the sun magnifies it then, isn't
and
that
if, on a frosty night, it's a clear sky, so the sun is out very early.
Yes.
And like you say, the sun burns the frost then.
It burns the petals at that stage, yeah.
Yeah,
it's a shame to see it, and it's such a lovely shrub. Now, what about moving shrubs at this time of year?
You could still move them, but you're getting into only another few weeks and it will be too late because everything is beginning to bud at the moment.
Right.
So you'd need to move things straight away.
What happens if I forgot to prune my apple trees last November?
Could still do them again, but straight away.
Yes.
Again now.
Yeah,
because because of the bad weather this year, things are slow this year to bud out.
Yes.
So you still have time to do them.
Okay, and what about this thing of people pruning shrubs and finding that they have no flowers this year? They prune them now and there are no flowers, and they know that they flowered very nicely last year.
Yeah.
What happened?
Well, it's like the watering. There's a simple solution to it. If it flowers in the spring, prune it exactly when it's finished flowering. So anything that's spring flowering, like your camellia,
yes,
you prune it when it's finished flowering.
Yes.
Then if it's summer flowering, you have a choice of 2 times to prune it, when it's finished flowering in the autumn, late summer or autumn, or again in the spring.
Yes.
So a spring flowering one directly after it's finished flowering.
Yes.
Same with a summer flowering one directly afterwards, but if you forget to do it then, you have another chance to do that in the spring.
So the roses that we have, for instance, which are kind of all summer flowering and right up to almost Christmas, really, in many places. What would you recommend about pruning those?
Right. So with roses, what I would say is to tidy them up going into the winter time.
Yes.
And then give them their main pruning around now, February, March.
Yes. Yes. Okay. So you're pruning them early on to stop the wind doing damage.
Yeah, you're
to
pruning them in the autumn just to tidy up the garden, really.
Yeah,
And more to tidy up the garden than anything else, to put
Okay.
a nice appearance on them.
Yes.
And then your main pruning is in the springtime.
And do they say before the 17th of March?
Yeah, usually before Patrick's Day would have been the traditional time.
Yes.
You know, when you start planting spuds as well.
Yes.
But that varies with the, with the weather conditions. But
Yes.
it's a general guideline.
Okay.
Would be perfect.
Now I know that I know that from many visits to this nursery that you actually have a nursery seedling place where you produce a whole lot of the stock for this nursery.
Yeah.
Do you think we might go and see it?
Love to. Yeah, John is down there waiting for you.
Great.
All right.
Okay.